Hello, everyone. Hello, friends. So I'm really, truly very excited, but also beyond honored for today's podcast or broadcast, depending if you're listening or watch. So I believe that each of us is born with a purpose, and the good things and sometimes the not too good things happening in our life can really make an impact, not in our life, but also the people around us. And today I'm so beyond honored because our special guest, Mark Gregston, who is a writer, he has over 20 books. He has over 57,000 people who believe in him and read his books, at least on Facebook. Of course, he has followers from all around the world. But again, it's not about how many followers you have. It's not about how many books you wrote. It's about the way you help people. And so without further ado, I want to thank you. And I'm so excited to learn more about you, about the book you wrote, and about all the incredible things you do for us.
Well, Vasi, it's so good to be with you. It's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful.
Well, I'm very excited as you and I know we talked about it before we press the button record and go live. It's the moment when I saw your book and the moment when I read what it's about, and then I saw how you help so many kids. I'm like, oh my gosh, like you are an inspiration to all of us. It's just amazing. It's just amazing.
It's normal for us. I mean, there's a sense of it that, and most people don't know. I live with 65 high school kids. They come from all over the country. A third of them have been adopted kids from other countries, and they're kids who are struggling, having a tough time, spinning out of control. And we get about 10,000 calls a year that parents want to place their child with us, but we only take about 60 kids. Wow. And then I spend a lot of my time helping parents kind of figure out what to do to get back control of their home. And so I've done this all my life. For almost 50 years, we've been working with kids and dealing with problems and issues and difficulties. And so we started a program called Heartlight 34 years ago, and we're on 150 acres in East Texas, in the beautiful part of Texas, and have 65 kids that live here with us, with all of our staff. And then we work with kids. So now we've had over 3,000 kids live with us throughout the years. And the craziness of that is that I always see kids that are grieving traumatic situations, or they've been victims, or they've struggled through things. And to get to the book, what it was with the book is that I had a dog that was 42 years of the same lineage of dogs that we had, and she died 2 years ago. And horrible. And and everybody knows, anybody who has a pet, I mean, I don't love my dog any more than they love theirs. I know that to be true. And truly what it was, probably more than anything else, is that people started telling me that she went to doggy heaven, or she went to a special place, or she crossed the Rainbow Bridge. And I thought, I'm a 67-year-old man, and you're telling me some Mother Goose rhyme of a 7 or 8-year-old about where my dog is. And I thought, that's like us. We do that a lot. We ignore the grieving process. And I see that with kids, but I also saw it in my own life with my own dog, or with my own mom who passed away 10 years ago. Or, you begin to realize that the grieving process is something that expresses the love that you have for whatever you're grieving over. And so, I got a little depressed about my dog. I was having a real tough time accepting the fact she was gone. She slept with us in between my wife and I every night. She was in my truck going to work every day. If I was in the recording studio, she was sitting there next to me. If I have written a book, then she has sat at my feet. Matter of fact, I dedicated a book to her because I ran out of people to dedicate to, and I was on the Hallmark Channel doing a show, and they said, "Well, we want you to bring your dog and have her on the show." And I said, "Well, I'd love to do that." And then 2 or 3 weeks later, she died. And when we all sat around in California getting ready to film the show, we started talking about our dogs and what they meant to us. And everybody around there started crying and tearing up. because it had been pent up issues of grief that they've never really talked about things. And so one of the gals there said, you need to write a children's book about the loss of your dog. And so that's what I did. And it's called Where's Stitch?
And it's like such an honorable way to, to create the legacy of your baby. And a lot of people, and you're right, it doesn't matter the age. This is a very difficult process when we lose our babies. And, no one wants to think about this, but when it happens, it's devastating and you never
Yeah.
can be prepared for it. But it's sometimes knowing that you're not the only one who go through this process,
Yeah.
and especially like even for kids. And again, you don't need to be kids to be feeling the same way, like you mentioned it happens to all of us. I mean, it's over 20 years and they are like imprinted in my heart.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very special, the bond between human and fur baby.
Well, yeah, and I think there's a tendency that we have to kind of fill that void real quick. Let's go get another dog real fast. Let's not talk about it. And I go, I think it's good to talk about it. I think there's something very admirable and honorable. The fact that you still feel something for a dog 20 years ago, it shows what that dog meant to you. And it doesn't mean that you're not dealing with grief appropriately. I get the idea that many of us don't deal with grief appropriately, whether it's the death of a parent or a child or a brother or sister or a dog or whatever. We have an amazing opportunity. And I don't know where you are on this, but I believe that God has given us all these animals. And so because he has, they live shorter lives than we do. And we get the opportunity to hold a puppy or a kitten or whatever it is, a gecko or a whatever, we get to hold that when it's born, and then we get to hold it again as it passes. And we have the opportunity to experience life in its fullness and see it before us. And it's almost like God's trying to teach us something through that animal, to say, this is how life's going to be. And if you're lucky enough, if you're just lucky enough, you'll have 5 opportunities like that to learn something from your animal, to see life pass before you, so you understand a little bit more about what life is all about and the celebration of life and how to grieve and how to go through those difficult times. And so, I mean, the book, that the idea behind it was kind of to honor my dog. I mean, because I was grieving, but in the longer run, it really is the encouragement to say, it's okay to talk about these things. Let's not ignore it, but take advantage of the opportunity that we have to engage with our kids or whoever it is that's lost a pet, a grandchild that just wants to talk about a pet, and encourage them to remember the good things and why we had them. And so it prepares them for that next pet, because they know they're going to go through the same thing again and again and again. Most pet people have a number of pets. They just don't have one throughout their life. They have a number of them because they become a great companion. So they learn something about relationship, and they learn something about how to listen. They learn how to engage with people. They learn about companionship. There's something that a pet is very important in the life of anybody, quite honestly.
Agree with you. And I actually even want to say, my daughter a few weeks ago, she said, Mommy, do you know that my friend's doggy was very old and it's not
Yeah.
with us anymore? And she was very calm about it. And now, since our dog is almost 16, I mean, I hope he lives with us and stays with us for many years. But unfortunately, I know that one day will come that day. And it was just amazing how a little child,
Yeah.
if it's introduced to it, and again, you never got prepared, but if you introduce to it, at least one thing my mom, and again, everyone has a different opinion about it, but
Yeah.
my mom told me many years ago, she said, listen, Vasi, at some point we need to free room on this earth for others. And
Yeah.
so, and it matters the way you live your life and what you do for people or for babies, because they're family members while they're walking on this earth.
Yeah.
And this is the way I think as an individual, we can choose on what we believe and how we will handle it. And again, for a lot of your friends, you may say, Vasi, why we are even talking about this? Mark, why we are talking about this? But I know that one day when it knocks on our door, you may remember in 2 in the morning what Mark wrote in his book, and what Vasi shared with you. And again, it's up to a personal choice, but it's just enjoying life and every minute of it. And I don't know how you feel about this, but I think that because life is getting so busy and we think so much about the future, but we are not a lot of times present, and we don't really appreciate that particular moment of
Yeah.
being on
Yeah.
the couch with the babies, just going for a walk. Sometimes we think, oh, I want my slippers. I don't want to go outside.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
You know the feeling.
Yeah. I think that what amazes me, I've always said this, is that if I could be half the person that my dog thinks that I am, then I'd be twice as good off. And there is something about that. And it's the beauty of realizing that companion, that somebody who listens, somebody who sits at your feet. And every day I'd come home. This is still what amazes me. And I when I think about it, this is what I miss about her. Every day that I came home, she ran to me like it was the greatest day of her life. And I get this idea that heaven's going to be like that we're going to be greeted by all those animals that we've had in our life that have thought that our coming home was the best day of their life. And there's something wonderful about that they know their mission. They were here to help us. I mean, I needed my dog a lot more than she needed me. And so that there's something about that. And so if somebody's listening that doesn't have a pet, I'm going to tell you, go get a pet. Your child will learn something from that animal. It'll learn something to take care of something. It'll learn companionship and value. And there's some character traits of every animal there is. We just had a pet raccoon that we raised for 4 or 5 months. And it was the sweetest pet I think we've ever had. It was wonderful. Now we had to let it go because it was crawling all over everything, but it was the cutest thing. But we learned a lot from that pet. And there's just something, and we knew there would be a time that we would have to let it go. And so that's the same way with all of us. When we realize that we're going to have to let go one day, then we embrace people and animals that much closer and draw them to us because we realize that that time is limited. And if it's limited, then I want to take advantage of it. I want to celebrate more. I want to have fun. I want to quit nagging about stuff. I don't want to argue about stupid stuff that doesn't matter. My dog never argued with me. Isn't that amazing? My dog never said a word to me. She never nagged me one time. And she was one of the greatest friends that have ever been in our home. And I look at those qualities and I go, I want to be more like my dog. I'm sure than my dog wants to be like me. And anyway, even though I think she'd love to be able to stand up and throw the ball by herself. But we had a blast doing that.
Yes, I'm sure. And all these beautiful memories,
Yeah.
the beautiful memories, those special moments when our babies, and it's interesting because all the people I interview, and I never will forget, I interviewed this lady, Jennifer from Australia, and she was telling me the story. One day she went to the store to buy milk. She came back 5 minutes later, and her 2 doggies, the same way, like your baby.
Yeah.
They ran to her like they never saw mommy before. And this is the joy. And this is what, friends, we really like. I'm sure, and I really would encourage you to check Mark's book, because the book, it's incredible. You don't need to be a child. You can be an adult. You can be, because all of us, we go through this. You can, in fact, read the book to your fur babies. I mean, there's so many things we can do. And the fact that you are kind of helping people to go through this process and kind of a little bit prepare them. Again, you never can really prepare them. And just to enjoy every single minute of our life. This is so powerful. Life is beautiful. But after, when they leave us, again, and that's why I'm so passionate, like yourself, you're a photographer too. That's why, you and I, we are so passionate when you use our phone, when you use our cameras to help you, friends, to, picture wise, being able to document, and then to bring it to your heart and your soul.
Yeah.
And then, that's why I'm excited about everything.
Well, on the cover of the book, it's interesting, when the picture on the front of the book was taken the day that she died. She was in my truck, and I just snapped it on my iPhone, and it was that night. And so when we were illustrating the book, I told the guy, I said, look, I'm a photographer. As a hobby, I take pictures of eyes. That's what I do. And with her, she is staring right at me. And you've got to capture the look on the cover of the book of her looking deep into your soul. Now, I'm one of those, there'd be times that I'd be laying down with her or sitting there looking at her, and she'd be looking at me. And I really thought, she is a lot more than just a bag of chemical reactions happening. There's something else in there. It's not just an animal. It is life at its best. And so when she died, then I always thought, well, where does she go? Where is she really? And I know her carcass is in our backyard, buried with our other dogs. But where did she go? And the tendency is all of us have to come up with an answer. And I'm going, you know what? That's not the purpose, is to know the answer. The purpose is to remember all the goodness that a pet has brought into somebody's life. That's what we should be remembering. And people ask me all the time, do you think that my dog will be in heaven? And I go, you know what? I don't know. I really don't know. But when you get there, whistle and see if they run to you. And I think that leaves a sense of wonderment. It leaves a sense that I get to think about that. It's helping a child move from concrete thinking, which is what they do the first 12 years of their life, into abstract thinking. That's why death is so hard for them. They can't, it's hard to believe that somebody dies and we're going to put them in the ground. I mean, that's just odd. But if you help them start thinking abstractly, that there is something, and I don't know where she is, but I know that she's in my heart, and I will remember her when I see these things. Then that allows a child to put some concrete answers to some abstract concepts that they can embrace and enjoy almost the grieving process, that it's okay to miss your dog. It's okay to miss your cat. It's okay to not have all the answers. And we get this idea, we always have to have answers to everything. And I go, the older I get, the more I realize I don't know. And I've also realized that there's fewer answers, and I have a lot more questions, and I'm content with keeping it at that. And so anyway, that's the fun part of the book. It still tears me up when I think about it. I still get moved whenever I see her picture, on a book that just has meant the world to me. And yet people are writing and calling and sending emails saying, it's stirring things up in me. I just crossed the Atlantic on a boat, and I was with a group of men, and it took us 14 days to get across the Atlantic Ocean.
Wow.
And we were all sitting around, and somebody said, well, do you have a book coming out? And I go, I do. And we started talking about dogs. Every one of the men sitting around our table started crying about dogs that they had lost and meant something to them. I mean, these are grown men. And it was just, people would tell me the next night, don't bring up anything about dogs, everybody's going to be crying. And it shows the need for people to be able to talk through the most difficult of situations. And so anyway, there's the book. So
I love it. No, you actually, Mark, you mentioned some really wonderful points. And, I think that, as you mentioned, a lot of people now kind of start thinking a little deeper about those things. And again, adults, kids, teenagers, we are in this together, each of us going through these moments. And you can see you are continuing the legacy through your book. You are going to help, hundreds and thousands and millions of people from all around the world who will read your book and already read your book. Myself, from the loss of my two dogs and not having pictures, here I am taking pictures and creating this platform. It's just amazing how each of us go through the process, and just, it's amazing. And by the way, I love your cup. Do you want to show it to people?
There's my dog. Somebody sent me a cup with my dog on it. And so anything that reminds me of her reminds me of a lot of goodness. And of course, I'm a little partial to golden retrievers. But this one was our third child. And, and it's just been it's been a loss, but with great memories, and I feel like I was blessed with a wonderful animal that just affirmed me in a million different ways, and as everybody else's animal does too. I mean, everybody's pet is just as special to them as Stitch was to me. I just talk a little bit about, let's go a little bit deeper with this thing and take advantage of the opportunity we have as we live another part of life with our furry friends.
Thank you. Thank you. This is so, like, again, very, very touching. I cannot tell you how honored I am today for you being on the show and sharing. And what I really am very impressed is that your book, I mean, it's available. People can, they can go to your website. Friends, depending of where you're watching or listening to this show, make sure you go in the description or check on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube. You can find it. You can also find, this is Mark's Facebook page, which, by the way, really, you have over 57,000 followers. I mean, I'm very impressed, because to have this, and again, it's not about the number, but it's like a lot of people believing in you. And I would encourage everyone to really make sure that they follow you. And it's very easy, friends. You can see, I mean, Mark and his team made it like you can buy it in Barcelona or in Amazon and Bookshop, IndieBound. You can buy it truly
Everywhere.
everywhere. And it's very reasonable. And again, everything what you do, it's still, you do like such a, like, you're a huge supporter of the kids. And can you tell us a little more, even if you started in the beginning of our interview, but how people can help, because I'm a believer that we can make a difference together.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, here's the thing. I mean, I write books, but I'm not really an author. I mean, I say that all the time. I'm a storyteller. And so I tell stories about kids and families and struggles and difficulties and hardships. And so I started writing books when I was 50 years old. We started a radio program called Parenting Today's Teens, and that's on about 1,800 stations. And now our podcast has gone crazy, and it's a 5-day-a-week release. And so it's been fun to do those things. But at the very core of everything that I do are the kids that I live with, and that's where my heart has been, and that's where I've learned everything about kids and families, and so I spend a lot of time just helping families. And so I will spend a couple of hundred nights a year on the road, leading seminars, speaking at churches and communities and everywhere, helping families deal with issues, and it really comes from a standpoint, just the practical aspect of how do we deal with kids in a culture that's a little bit different, because every one of us has said, I'm glad I don't have to grow up in this culture. Well, our kids do. And because they do, we've got to give them some help. And the help is that we've got to, provide opportunities for them and provide alternatives for them as well. So they can make the connections. And one of the first things I tell families all the time, go get your child a dog, go get them a cat, go get them a pet to take care of so they can bond with somebody. And so those are the kids that I live with and deal with. And that's the basis of what I do. And radio and books and speaking and everything else is a secondary part of it, but it consumes my time. And I spend, as I said, a lot of time in the recording studio and just producing more content for everything that we've learned from Heartlight and all that. And I would tell people, don't send your kid to Heartlight. I don't want you to do that. What I want you to do is get the help that you need. And you can do that by either going to heartlightministries.org or Parenting Today's Teens or Mark Gregston. I mean, find us and we'll send you information and help for your family if you're struggling or having a tough time, or you just need some, a little bit of help and hope to get through these adolescent years. That's what we're all about.
No, it's really amazing, friends. You can see, and I would encourage each of you, if there is a way for you, because I'm a true believer that we as a community, there is always a way for us to help. Even simply with pressing share to this video or a podcast, whatever you're watching it, It's and especially like we do have quite a bit of following from the pet world. Sometimes even just donating stuff, you don't like, you don't need to use them, like maybe you made an outfit and it didn't fit your client, and maybe you can send it, the kids can play and dress the doggies. I mean, I can tell you, it's really funny.
Yeah.
My daughter now, she's into a new toy, and I said, well, do you know what, we are going to dress your toy, your bear, with doggy clothes. So I got a bunch of doggy clothes from one of the pet events. So we supported this way the rescue organization. And
Wow.
now my
Wow.
my daughter's doggy, and that my daughter's, although it's better dressed than even some humans. And that's what and this morning we were late for school because she said, Mommy, I bought clothes for little bigger toy. Well, now she decided to dress her newest, no, her oldest, smallest toy.
Oh,
I'm like,
wow.
this is too big, Mommy, please
Wow.
don't
That's
order.
hilarious. That is hilarious.
That's what it means, helping the community in your own way. You'll
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
amazed. And I cannot thank you enough for being with us today. And I'm so beyond honored, because I was trying to find a way, and thank you again to everyone who is watching live or listening this podcast. I was trying to find a way how we can connect the pet community with the kids. And again, teenagers, kids, they are kids. My
Yeah.
father told me many years ago, he said, it doesn't matter how old you are, you're always going to be my kid. So I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you
That's
very
cool.
good one.
That's cool.
And here it's the answer, Mark. It's connecting the community. You are
Yeah.
preparing it for something which no one wants to talk about it. And I really would encourage friends, please show your support. Go and check out the book. Go and just really share with your friends, and think creative on how we can help all of these teenager kids, because they are the future. The kids
Yeah.
are the future. And let's make our future brighter through connecting two legs and four legs kids.
Cool. Cool.
Thank you.
Bossy, thank you so much for having me. This has been wonderful. And it's so good to meet you, and anything I can do to help you in any way, let me know. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Sounds
You
wonderful.
bet.
And thank you, friends, for watching or listening this episode. It's just such an honor to have Mark with us today on the show. Mark Gregston, again, you are very humble, but you are an icon to all of us. And just
No,
showcasing how a big heart and a passion can make a difference in such a large level in so many different things. So thank you, Mark.
you bet. Thank you.
Thank you. See you soon. Thank you. Have a
All right.
wonderful day. Thank you. Bye bye.